What's going on YouTube? So the Outback is Subaru's most recognizable model, but a lot of people don't realize that the Forester has actually outsold the Outback so far this year, which makes this its #1 product. Now for 2021, Subaru is following up on that success by adding even more standard equipment and some new features across all of the trim levels. So with that being said, let's go ahead and see what's new and if you should pick the Forester over all the stiff competition. So starting out here with your exterior design, we've got the sport trim of the Forester, which makes things look quite a bit more aggressive than the standard Forester model. So what you'll notice up here in the front is your blacked out grille here, which definitely blends in nicely with this black paint. And you also have the cool orange accent down here at the bottom, which does carry on throughout the rest of the exterior. Now, if you got any of the other trim levels, you would have a chrome accent that runs through here. Now coming over here to your headlights, this is where we're going to see some changes for 2021, and that's the fact that Subaru is now giving you standard full LED adaptive headlights. So that's definitely basically unheard of in the class to have standard adaptive abilities to your headlights. And in addition to that, Subaru is also throwing in fog lights now on the premium trim level and above. So that's new to that trim level. Now, I did forget to mention it up in the front, but since Subaru does pride itself in having more off-road capability than average, you do have 8.7 inches of ground clearance, which is actually the same as what you have in the Outback. But anyways, as far as the wheels are concerned, you've got basically a different choice for every single trim level. So you have a 17-inch steel wheel on your base model and a 17-inch alloy on the premium. Then when you go up to any of the other 3 trim levels, they have 18-inch alloys, all 3 of them with different designs. And moving up to the mirrors, Subaru does give you heating on all but the base model, and new for 2021, blind spot monitoring is now included as standard equipment on the sport trim level and above. And finally, you also have available auto dimming.
Now, walking around to the rear design of the 2021 Forester, you're not going to really see any changes back here this year. However, that said, this sport trim does have quite a bit to spice up the rear design compared to the other different trim levels. So you do have a black accent on the sport, however you can't really see it on this black model. And then as far as your taillights, these are going to be the same taillights that you get on any of the other Foresters. So you have an LED brake light, the turn signal and reverse light are incandescent though. Then dropping down, the sport will add this orange accent as Drew mentioned in the front, and you also have an exposed exhaust pipe on the right side. Now, of course, this is a Subaru, and this segment is very family focused, so they have thrown in their entire EyeSight safety suite across all of the trim levels. That'll be advanced stuff like adaptive cruise control, pre-collision braking, lane keeping assist, auto high beam headlamps, and if you go for the touring trim, it will also throw in rear auto braking. Well guys, the Sport Forester on the outside, of course, has some pretty cool elements to it, but now let's go ahead and check out the inside, where I know they've put quite a few different things in there as well. And before we do all of that, hit that subscribe button down below.
So just like on the outside, Subaru is adding more standard equipment for 2021. This time in the way of the smart entry system. It's now been brought down to the premium trim, so all but the very base model will have the smart entry system and push button start. So to get inside the door, just grab behind the handle since there is a sensor. And taking a look inside of this cabin, of course this is the same cabin you come to expect from the Forester, plus since we have the sport trim level, we get all the extra sport touches. So going into our different interior color and material options, you do have quite a few. So your base and premium trims, those are going to come with cloth seating in your choice of black or gray. And then when you get up to this sport trim level, that's where you'll have the gray sport cloth seats with the orange accenting that matches all the orange accents throughout the rest of the cabin. Then, when you go up to the limited trim level, that's where you'll have real leather in your choice of black or gray. And then the touring trim level also has real leather in black or an exclusive brown. Now turning over here to your door trim, you're going to see the same materials from the seating reflected up here. So we have a leatherette material across all of the armrest with the orange color contrast stitching detail. And then this portion here is finished in the same cloth as the seat, again with another stitching detail. As far as your windows, they're going to be one-touch auto up and down for your driver and your passenger. Moving down here to your seats, we have the 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. This is standard on all but the base model. And then, like I was already mentioning, we have the cloth and leatherette combination seats here with the orange accenting. Definitely like the way these look. So we've always liked the quality of this cabin since this new generation debuted, and of course that does carry on for 2021. So across our upper dash we have a soft touch plastic. We also have the double orange color contrast stitching detail and kind of a perforated leatherette material below that. We have some silver trim. As we move down, you also notice some more leatherette, again with this kind of perforated material and more color contrast stitching, and everything in here does fit together extremely well. Now, like I was already mentioning, newly standard this year, you now have push button start on the premium trim level. So first, taking a look at the gauge cluster here, this is your typical Subaru setup. So it's mostly analog, but you have a 4.2-inch multi-function display right there in the middle, and you can cycle between different types of things related to like your trip information and your range. However, where most of the information is contained is going to be up here with this secondary 6.3-inch display. This is included on the sport trim level and higher, and you just press the info button on the steering wheel to cycle through a really wide variety of information, including things with your all-wheel drive system, even things like weather and Bluetooth. Now heading back to the steering wheel, of course we have electric power assisted steering, and it is nicely leather wrapped on all but the very base model. As far as the wheel itself, it is going to be manual tilt and telescoping across the entire range, and if you want heating, you can get that if you choose the fully loaded touring model. Alright, so now let's go ahead and roll into interior storage. That's very important for a family vehicle such as this. So we'll start out underneath our center console here. When we open this up, you'll see that it is a very nice size, quite deep, and there is a felt lining down at the bottom. When we grab out the coupons, you'll see this large stack is going to fit in here absolutely no problem, so definitely coupon approved. Now up in front of that, we've got a little slot here. We also have two very deep adjustable cup holders. And then up in the very front here, we have a large storage area with two charging USBs, an aux jack, and a 12-volt outlet. Now coming back here to the shifter, you will notice here on the sport trim we have the orange accenting that goes all around it. This itself is a traditional style shifter, so you're just going to pull back for drive, of course, and then bump over here to the left if you want to do some manual shifting through the simulated gear changes, and you can also do so with your paddle shifters. Now when we head into reverse, you'll be greeted with this standard backup camera. As you can see, we do have active trajectory as well as a nice looking image. This is standard across all the models. There is not a 360-degree camera offered though. And then back behind the shifter, you have your electronic parking brake, your brake hold function, as well as your buttons here for your X mode controls. Now up to the side of that, I am happy to report that Subaru throws in heated seats on all but the very base model, so that's definitely a nice touch. And then as far as your broader climate controls, you have a standard single zone automatic setup, and you will have dual zone automatic setup if you choose the limited or the touring trim level. But overall operation, very simple. When you make the adjustments, they show up there on the upper display. And then the next place that brings us to will be our audio systems. So just like most vehicles, you do have a range of different audio systems you can choose between. Standard on most of the models is going to be a 6-speaker sound system. However, this specific Sport has the optional 576 watt 9-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. So let's go ahead and take a sample of that. Yeah, sound quality of this system is excellent. So if you're really into music, I definitely recommend thinking about choosing that upgrade. Okay, so now that brings us up here to the main display. So what you're looking at is the 8-inch display. This is optional on the Sport trim level and standard on the Limited and the Touring trim level. Otherwise, you're going to have a 6.5-inch display, which does pretty much the same stuff, but like I said, the display is a little bit smaller. Now, as far as the main features to point out, you will have standard Android Auto and standard Apple CarPlay, no matter which screen size you have. You also notice we have physical controls down here, as well as a CD player, which is something that's becoming increasingly rare. Now, jumping on up, we have the auto-dimming mirror with 3 HomeLink universal remotes and a compass. That's going to be optional on all the trim levels. And then up here at the very top, we have a feature that really stands out for the segment, and that is a panoramic sunroof. This is actually included standard on all but the base model, so that's certainly, like I said, a really standout feature since many of the rivals don't offer a large sunroof option, or they reserve it for just the top end trim levels.
Now, sitting in the rear seat of the 2021 Forester, I've always been very impressed with what this rear seat has to offer because it has a lot of space and also a lot of luxury features. So as far as your space figures themselves, that's going to be 39 inches of rear legroom, 40 inches of rear headroom, which makes it larger than the Subaru Outback, and it also is one of the largest offerings in the entire segment. Sitting behind rear seating position, I have, I would say, 8 to 10 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat. Now, as far as the feature set you're going to get vents standard on all but the very base model. And then dropping down, we're also going to have 2 charging USB ports. That's going to come on the Sport trims and higher. And then off to the side, you'll notice a blank button, and that would be heated rear seats on the Touring model only. And if we drop down the center armrest, we do have cup holders inside. Now, walking up to your tailgate, you are going to have a Power 1 standard on the Sport trims and higher. However, you are missing out on that foot activation. So just push the button to open up. And once inside of this Forester's cargo area, you're going to be very pleasantly surprised because there is a lot of space back here. You're going to have 35 cubic feet behind the second row seats, and that expands to 76 cubic feet if you fold them. That does make it one of the largest offerings in the entire segment. It's right on par with the largest vehicles, so you're definitely going to benefit from that additional space back here. Now, as far as how Subaru has finished it, we do have a really nice carpeting along the floor. If we lift it up, we have a storage area, and underneath of that, we do have a spare tire. And then off to the left side, we do have a 12-volt outlet, as well as a cargo cover. And I do want to point out that if you go for the Touring model, you have a one-touch folding second row back here. Now here at your passenger seat, you do have a manually adjusting one. And then in front of the passenger here, we do have it's a good sized glove box. It is not massive, but it's also probably about average for the segment, so you're definitely going to be able to fit plenty of your coupons in there to save money. And then up top, we do have a sun visor. This has a light as well as a mirror, and we can also detach it, and it has an extension in the end.
Alright, so here we are, of course, in the 2021 Forester. The powertrain does stay the same this year, so it's going to be a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. It's producing 182 horsepower, 176 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are roughly in line with what the competition has.
Yeah.
Pretty average. And I'd say from behind the wheel, power seems adequate for a vehicle of this size. I don't think you're going to have any problems with its get up and go. Now, from what you just saw, you may not even realize this does have a continuously variable transmission. That's because we have the shift simulation on board, which is pretty realistic, I will say. Actually, it's pretty believable, so if you weren't in the know, you may not even realize it. So I do like that it has kind of a more traditional feel from behind the wheel. But yeah, definitely have to commend Subaru on the way they tune the CVT. Very responsive, particularly from a start with the throttle response, and like I said, the tuning of the CVT. When you first take off, it really feels nice and responsive.
But the Forester is all about family. That's what these vehicles are made for. So let's go ahead and talk about just the general everyday livability, the ride quality, the sound level. We're cruising around 40 miles an hour right now, and as far as the ride quality, I'm very impressed. Subaru always does their ride qualities very well, and this is no different. When you hit a bump, it really soaks it up well. I think it's very much competitive with the class, if not better than average. And as far as the noise level, I will get a reading. And we are going a little bit slower than normal, and we're registering 58.5 decibels. So that's not one of the quietest offerings in the segment, but I think it's pretty much competitive with the class, and just by the seat of my pants here listening to the noise, I don't find that it would be anything intrusive for your family.
Now, before we dig into today's slam dunk and airball, I do want to briefly mention the driving dynamics. Like with pretty much everything in this class, there's really been lots of strides made with the driving dynamics, and the Forester is no different. This new platform from this generation really has a nice tight feel to it. Also, I like the steering. It's light, but it's very responsive, as you can see. You get that immediate response. So this is a good package, dynamically speaking. Now, getting into the slam dunk and airball, we'll start with the slam dunk. That's going to be the space on board with this model. You have just tons and tons of space. Really, it's a great option in this class if you just want to maximize utility, because this is really puts the emphasis on that.
Yeah, it's such a practical vehicle. Now, with that said, the airball for today is going to be that, you know, this is a little bit more conservatively styled than some of the other options in the class. A lot of them are really going distinct in this segment, and this is kind of one of the more boring options. Now, I know that doesn't matter to some of you guys. Some of you guys may like that, but from my standpoint, I think it would be nice for Subaru to inject some more style into the Forester. Now, another thing to mention is that the Forester does come standard with Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system, which that is a very big benefit for this segment, especially if you go for a lower-end model, because all of them are going to have it standard, whereas the competition will normally make you pay around $2,000 extra for their all-wheel drive systems.
That's right, and this doesn't really cost much more at all.
And with that, since there's only one engine and all-wheel drive is standard, there's only one fuel economy, so they're all going to be rated at 26 city, 33 highway, 29 combined. And that's really one of, if not the most efficient offerings in the entire segment, with all-wheel drive, of course.
And that was your auto start stop system engaging right there.
as far as the pricing is concerned for the 2021 Forester. Prices are going to rise only about $300 this year, so not a big price increase. So for the base model, that's going to be $24,795, Premium $27,795, Sport $29,395, Limited $31,395, and Touring $34,895. Now we have some option packages on this Sport Forester to make it a little bit more luxurious, as well as the destination charge of $1,050. Brings this one, as equipped, to $33,033.
So at the beginning of the video, I asked how does it stack up against all of the competition, which is really a long list of competition at this point. I'd say quite favorably. This Forester really has a lot of things going for it. And it has even more things going for it in 2021, since you now have all the extra standard equipment, particularly on the lower end models like the Premium, making it a really, really good value.
Well guys, that's going to be it for this in-depth review of the 2021 Subaru Forester Sport. We really appreciate you watching, and if you've made it this far in the video, don't lie to me. I know you enjoyed watching, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.